Welcome to the PKSOI Peace and Stability Journal. I'm Colonel Dan Pinnell, the Director of the U.S. Army Peacekeeping and Stability Operations Institute. I would like to take a few minutes to update you on the activities of PKSOI's staff over the last 3 months and briefly introduce you to the articles in the new journal, as well as share a few upcoming highlights for the next quarter. We have been very active since the last edition of the journal. Professor Rick Copeland organized the visit of his fellow Rotarian, Sudesh Walia, a peace trainer and past president of the Rotary Club in Nairobi, Kenya. Their discussion centered on Rotary Peace Scholars from Africa serving as visiting fellows and interns at the Peacekeeping and Stab Ops Institute. Mr. Dave Mazinski participated in the 2015 NATO Lessons Learned Conference in Lisbon, Portugal. The conference highlighted lessons learned focused on OEF, resolute support, and Operation Inherent Resolve. NATO plans to utilize the lessons learned process to transform their operational procedures for interacting with non-military entities, especially in crisis management situations. Lieutenant Colonel Anna Haberzettel participated in the Women, Peace and Security Peacekeeping Operations Workshop in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. The workshop focused on developing a common understanding of WPS policy and recruiting women for positions in national security through an exchange of best practices. Professor Dwight Raymond visited MINUSMA with AFRICOM and the US-UN representatives to gain insight on the performance of troop contributing countries in the mission and assess the integration of civilian and police components in coordination with the Malian, French, and European Union forces. Professor Tony Lieto provided stability operations instruction to senior ranking crisis management, military, police, and civilian experts at the Italian Post-Conflict Operations Center. Tony also taught a modified version of the Army Security Cooperation Planners course to USARA commanders and staff while he was in Europe. Professor Dwight Raymond presented a condensed version of Regionally Aligned Force Peace Operations Training to the 403rd Civil Affairs Battalion in support of their pending deployment to Combined Joint Task Force Horn of Africa. Ms. Rachel Baer of New Century US, a private company which works in the areas of host nation law enforcement and military capacity and institutional reform, opens the journal with an article on developing and delivering border management strategy planning in conflict-affected states. She argues that the key elements to creating a comprehensive border management plan is to conduct research on current border management initiatives and understand their impact on cross-border threats. Major Alan Van Son identifies the African Standby Force, or ASF, as an optimal mechanism for multilateral theater security cooperation in Africa. Major Van Son argues in a time of shrinking budgets, AFRICOM needs to focus on multilateral strategies for enhancing security cooperation. The ASF is a multidisciplinary continental peacekeeping force comprised of military, police, and civilian components, which when augmented by the regional economic communities, has shown the capacity to be a viable option for addressing sub-regional problems. In his article, Major Ian Townsend describes the R-South methodology for organizational staff evolution to better align long-range security cooperation planning objectives with operational impacts. He argues that without an effective initial assessment and a continuous evaluation process to measure progress, security cooperation objectives become disconnected from their operational effects. This disconnect became the basis for R-South's evolution of their security cooperation planning cycle and their organizational structure for security cooperation. Colonel Retired Chris Holschek, in his article, describes the findings of the Civil Affairs Symposium in San Antonio, Texas. The CA, community of practice, he argues, must help the Army and the Joint Force consolidate gains and achieve sustainable outcomes in future conflict by consolidating political and military objectives. To reach this end, the CA community must advocate for civil affairs capabilities and integrate their capabilities into the operational planning framework. In the upcoming quarter, PKSOI will participate in a number of key events. In March, PKSOI's Colonel Greg DeWitt will attend the 2016 NATO Partnership Training and Education Center's Commandant's Conference in Tirana, Albania. From 3 to 11 March, PKSOI will represent the United States at the NATO Training and Education Peace Support Operations, or TEPSO, event in Sweden. And lastly, PKSOI will sponsor the PSO2 Training and Education Workshop from 6 to 8 April at Johns Hopkins University's Montgomery County campus. If you have an article which aligns thematically with the PKSOI Journal or would like to propose a collaborative research initiative, please contact us. And as always, we look forward to your feedback and recommendations about how we can continuously improve our processes and the PKSOI Journal. Thank you very much for your attention, and I hope you enjoy.